Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's doing okay tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Donna Lynn Hilton, producer for Goodspeed Musicals, and I really appreciate you taking time out to dive in with us tonight. And welcome to In the Home Office with Goodspeed and my home office. Some of you have heard this before, but for those of you who might be tuning in for the first time, one of the great parts of my job is the responsibility of establishing and managing relationships with a lot of artists, writers, directors, designers, actors, choreographers, all the wonderful people who create the work that we've all enjoyed on our stages over many, many years. And as part of that work, I am constantly on the phone or taking a coffee, or more recently, Zoom chatting with somebody about some project. And we thought it might be fun to invite you into those conversations a little bit during this time that we're all not able to gather in our theaters. So tonight's visit is a little bit different because it is conversation with one of the artists whose work was had to be canceled by Goodspeed because of the COVID-19 crisis. I haven't really spoken to Douglas since the call when I told him that we were not going to be able to do the show together this spring. Johnny and the Devil's Box was to have started off our Terrace season this year. And we were really saddened when we had to cancel it because it's a great show that I've been crowing about for a couple of years now. So we're excited that we're going to be able to share a little bit of it with you tonight. So let's go ahead and bring Douglas in. Please welcome Douglas Waterbury-Tieman, who wrote book, music, and lyrics for Johnny and the Devil's Box and was to have been appearing in it on the Terrace stage right now.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Donna Lynn.
Hi, Douglas. Who's with you tonight?
Well, I'm here with my wife, Annabelle Fox, and my father-in-law, Dan Fox.
Hi, Annabelle and Dan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
When I reached out to Douglas to see if he wanted to do this tonight, he said, well, is it okay if Annabelle and Dan join me? And I said, sure, that would be fabulous. It's nice to meet you, Dan. Or we probably met when you visited the Writers Colony. I believe we did.
I'm sure we did, yes.
Yeah.
It's good to see you again.
Good memory.
Yeah, sometimes. So it makes me sad to think we were supposed to be in the room together right now.
Yes, us too, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. How are you doing?
We're doing well. We are so lucky to be here in the Fox home, the Fox Den, if you will. And we left the city March 12th, sort of just before everything was starting to change, and so we feel very, very fortunate to have been able to avert a time when we might have been in danger or been in danger of bringing anything up here. So we've been here ever since, and you know, it's a different pace of life for everyone, but it's really, we feel fortunate to have the neighborhood and nature and so much space to get out.
A bigger
enjoy.
kitchen.
Yeah.
To cook.
Yeah. Cooking has been a lot of fun.
Cooking has been like the thing we look forward to. We wake up and we're like, what are we going to make for dinner?
I think that's the thing a lot of us are looking forward to. We're having breakfast and I'm talking about what we're going to have for lunch.
I know. It's like,
I think that's common.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Johnny and the Devil's Box a little bit. Some of our audience may know something about it, but tell us about the show. What's the show about?
Absolutely. Well, Johnny and the Devil's Box it's based on myths of fiddle players and violinists dealing with the devil. And these myths have gone back to the time of Paganini, who was the first violinist virtuoso. And anyone who was able to play so dexterously, the populace just assumed that, well, they must have sold their soul to the devil, because it's the only possible way to explain that kind of skill, not taking into consideration the hours of practice. But more would have been more realistic.
And the talent.
Certainly. So what I have done with this show is to take the root of that myth and place it in a time and a place with music that I love, which is bluegrass and country music, and follow the exploits of a young man named Johnny, who thinks he's the greatest fiddle player that's ever been. And when he pronounces that, the devil himself appears, because the devil is also a fiddle player. And it's a myth and a legend about the power and the danger of pride. and using your gifts of music, any gifts, but in this specific sense, the gift of music to bring people together instead of putting yourself above the rest of the world.
You grew up in Kentucky, right?
That's right.
So music, this kind of music has been part of your life for a long time.
For a long time. And I always enjoyed talking with you about that because I know it's something that we have in common.
Yeah, we do. Although I can't play anything at all.
Sure, but you can listen.
I can listen. I know good bluegrass when I hear it. That's absolutely true. It's true. So you've been developing the show for a couple of years now.
That's right.
Talk us through the process to date.
Sure. So I was fortunate enough to start the project, actually thinking about it really in concrete terms back in 2014. I played a jam at the Station Inn in Nashville, Tennessee, which is sort of like the bluegrass bar venue. And it was an open mic night, and after I played my tune, a gentleman approached me and was intrigued by what I could do, and he ended up becoming sort of a mentor to me as I pitched him the project of this musical idea. And he was the very first person that really got me thinking about my abilities to write a musical myself. From there, I continued. Roger Murrah is that gentleman's name. And from there, I applied for the Johnny Mercer Writers Colony with the support of some friends. And that was the real place that the script was sort of born. And was able to walk away from that week in 2017 with a first act, which was phenomenal. From there, we had a workshop, writer's workshop with the Drama League, where we worked on some choreography with Jennifer Jankishay and her group, The Bring About, along with director John Hurley. And from other developmental points have been a full workshop with the students at Belmont University in 2018,
In Nashville.
our alma mater in Nashville. And
Belmont,
love it. That was a real gift to be able to see the piece on stage, sort of.
It's like a full circle moment.
It was really, really special. And we've done a couple of concerts of the music at Rockwood Music Hall, and then most recently we were up at Goodspeed again for the not the Colony, but the New Musicals Festival with a generous grant from the Frank Young Fund. So it's been. And we did a 29-hour reading.
That's right.
10.
Yeah.
Back in the
And you had a development coming up in Houston, and you and I didn't even talk about this when I called you to say the bad news, but that didn't get done either, did it?
No, but we have a really lovely relationship with Jake Speck and the folks at 80 Players in Houston, and it's just like everything, we're all still here. We're all still talking. We're all still hoping and dreaming. So
this show will get done. It is too good not to get done. It is a crowd pleaser. It's just a beautiful, joyous show. So I know that it will get produced. I should tell our audience, and those of you who don't know, that you can ask questions of Douglas. You should find a Q&A place on your screen, depending on whether your Windows or Mac. It's in a different place. But if you enter some questions there, we'll try to get a couple of questions off to Douglas. And one question that came up very quickly was, when is Johnny going to be rescheduled? And the true answer is, we don't know yet. The only thing we know about Goodspeed's immediate future is that South Pacific will be the only production of our 2020 season that's scheduled right now to start performances on September 11th. And we're really just waiting right now to see what the state says about safe protocols for all of us to start returning to work. And as soon as we can get Johnny back on the lineup, it is our intention to do so. So we'll keep you posted.
Thanks.
CR543, whoever asked the question.
Stay tuned.
All right, so let's get to some music, because I know that's why people dialed in.
Right.
So set up what you're going to share with us tonight.
Right. So we're going to share 3 pieces. The first one is called Johnny's Breakdown. And if you know what a breakdown is in fiddle tunes, it's sort of a beefed up dance tune that a fiddle player has added a bunch of fancy licks to show off their skill. So this is when Johnny first steps forward and plays his tune and sort of proclaims that, well, the devil in hell may fiddle, but he ain't got nothing on me. That'll be followed by Abigail's song, the character that Annabelle portrays. She is in the midst of grappling with her family's past and story, and she's looking for some meaning and some of the history of her family, and she ends up following a whippoorwill through the forest that leads her back to the music.
She has a big old crush on Johnny, so.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
That's where she goes.
There you go. There you go.
Spoiler!
So you'll listen for the whippoorwill in that song. And then the third one is called The Change, and that one, that's the love duet. And the idea being that when you fall in love with somebody, your very senses, your perception of reality is altered. So excited to share some tunes with you. And thanks again to Dan for backing us up.
Yes,
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Here we go. I was born back in the mountains. Not a nickel to my name. But when I start to fiddle, it'll put them all to shame. I'm so bored and wearied from living for a sin. I'll go to town, turn it around when they hear me fiddling. Now I can play this fiddle, I play it fancy free. So the devil in hell can fiddle it well, but he ain't got nothing on me. Mama named me Johnny, Daddy called me John. The day they died, I never cried, I knew I had to travel on. I've been living lonesome, but ragging through the pines. When I find me a pretty little lady, I'm bound to make her mine. So I can play this fiddle, I play it fancy free. So the devil in hell can fiddle it well, but he ain't got nothing on me. When I head down the mountain, you won't see me again. But down the road, you'll hear my name, 'cause I know I was born to win. Down the road, I gotta get down the road, down the road, down the road, I gotta get down the road. Bring me up my fiddle and rousing up the boat. That hell break loose in Georgia, and down the road I go. Down the road, I gotta get down the road, down the road, down the road, I gotta get down the road. I can play this fiddle, I play it fancy breeze. The devil in hell can do it well, but he ain't got nothing on me.
Beautiful. Thunderous applause. I'm doing it for everybody. They're in their living rooms or their kitchens. Everyone's applauding. I'm going to slip a quick question in here, Douglas, if I can, because the comparison to Charlie Daniels' Devil Went Down to Georgia is obvious to all of us. And so somebody asked about that connection. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's interesting because one of the things that often comes up, of course, is that tune, but there's another less well-known poem that was actually an inspiration to both of us, which is The Mountain Whippoorwill, a poem by Stephen Vincent Benet. And it's about this fiddle player, Hillbilly Jim, who goes from the mountains of North Georgia down to the big city to play a fiddle contest. And he listens to all the other fiddlers, and he's very enamored by them. But my favorite lines, so I'm going to quote some of the poem for you.
Okay. Oh, here we go.
He says, so he looks around and he's heard these great fiddlers, and then he goes, but I stood up pert, and I took my bow, and my fiddle went to my shoulder so. And there weren't no crowd to get me phased, but I was alone where I was raised. Up in the mountains, so still it makes you scared, where God lies sleeping in his big white beard. And I heard the sound of the squirrel and the pine, and I heard the earth breathe into the long night time. I heard they fiddle the rose and they fiddle the thorn, but they haven't fiddled the mountain thorn. They fiddle the rose and they fiddle the they fiddle loud and they fiddle still, but they haven't fiddled the whippoorwill. And so the idea being that he uses where he's from and his soul and his home place is what inspires him, and then he fiddles all night long and ends up winning the fiddle contest. So there's this great piece of Americana poetry that really sums up what it means to be a fiddle player. And then another piece of Stephen Vincent Benet's work is The Devil and Daniel Webster, which is about a bargain and a duel. And so those two pieces I know inspired Charlie Daniels and have been a great inspiration to me as well, as I've tried to sort of pull from so many different places to write this tune.
And growing up in Kentucky and North Carolina, as we did, that legacy is very alive for us. So
right. Well, and actually, sorry, I forgot to mention that Stephen Vincent Benet is buried not 30 minutes drive from Goodspeed.
I did not know that.
Just up the coast. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And when you were here for the Writers Colony, you went out to the Devil's Hop Yard and
That's
fiddled
right.
out there.
Yes.
I
Part of
remember.
that myth is that the devil fiddled there on top of the ridge or on top of the falls, and one of those where the water swirls around. There's sort of some bowls of where the water falls down is where the witches brew their stew while the devil fiddled.
Yeah. All right, we got another song. Remind us what it's about.
Back on track.
Yeah, we're not talking about witches. We're talking about
These
devils.
people want music. These people want
Abigail,
music. We
turn.
had
It's
that
my
clear.
turn.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3.
I was taught that the world is fraught with dangers and what strangers do. And I'm not sure they're wrong, but now I have heard your song and it lingers like fingers and thousand engines never lost. And I don't even know what to say anymore. And I don't think I know how to play anymore. There's an ache in my soul that will stay evermore. But listen, I was told that when I grew older, I'd find a man of kind to follow in step. And yet, though we've only met, we opened a path a little forward to your side. And I don't know which way I should turn anymore. And I don't believe half what I've learned anymore. I have never felt this kind of yearning before. What am I missing? La, la. Mama, won't Daddy ever talk about you? Mama, don't we have to live without you? Mama, what does he feel? I know that often you leave. I'm afraid that my soul was made for much more than life behind doors, safe and sound and gold. My bones ache inside to roam the rising and rising toward my true love's eyes. And I don't know which way I should turn anymore. And I don't believe half what I've learned anymore. I have never felt this kind of yearning before. What am I missing? La, la.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Annabelle, I don't think I've ever heard you do that whole song live.
Really?
I don't think I have.
Oh,
I've
well,
heard the
great.
demo, but I don't think you sang it in the 29-hour reading
I don't know.
that I was at.
Bridge.
There's
So-
there's a new
It
little.
might be a-
So it may just sound really different, but it was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, you probably don't get to sit that close to her singing anymore.
Actually, Annabelle's been singing with me or for me since she was about 3.
Aw, that's
Anyway,
great.
but, yeah, it's a treat. It's always a treat.
Yeah,
And with
that's
Douglas.
She has
Douglas, we have a couple of questions for you. Somebody wants to know how long you've been playing the fiddle.
About 21 years.
So you started when you were 2.
9. Yeah. In the womb.
Do the
in the
math.
room.
Yeah.
But he was a wee babe.
And your family from Georgia wants to be sure that everyone knows that you were actually born in Georgia and have
Yes.
lots of roots
But,
there.
right, of course, yes.
Okay, I just want to get that in there.
Grew up in Kentucky, but yes, born in Athens, Georgia. Thanks,
I do
Mom.
not need Georgia coming after me. No, I do not need that. All right, so we got one more song.
Great.
Remind us what we're hearing.
This
The
is,
setup happened a while ago.
yes, this is The Change.
I don't know if you've heard this one either.
I'm not sure I have.
This is one I picked specifically because we've never performed it on campus at Goodspeed. So this is maybe a new one to some folks listening.
Okay,
Speed debut.
excellent.
And so the idea being here again that when you fall in love, your senses are changed. And so the little phrase you'll hear is, "My senses have rearranged since meeting or falling in love." Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. I hear music when I look at you, like a lovely melody. And the first time that I saw you, it began to sing to me. And I'll never hear the same since my senses rearranged.
I feel something stirring when you play like I never felt before. And the way your music moves me, keeps me coming back for more. And I'll never feel the same since my senses rearranged.
Could it be I've just come to my senses?
Maybe it's the prelude to a snare.
If there's a difference, does it even matter?
Give me my sense again. Oh, oh, I am not the same. I see clearer than I've ever seen when I hold your hand in mine. And I wonder what I've missed before our fingers intertwine. I will never see the same since my senses rearranged. Now the world is not the same. All my senses rearranged. Oh, with you I'm not the same. But I think I like the change.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love it.
Thank
When did you
you.
write that, Douglas?
I've had that one.
Bye, Dad.
Oh, jeez. Bye, Dad.
I
He's got to run back to work. That one, I started writing. Gosh, I don't remember. I have most of them written down, but this one, I think I was. I think it would have been
2 years ago?
probably at least starting to get some of the ideas down there. It gets
Yeah.
beat in the
Yeah.
first. The
But
first
you're right.
time
I
we
don't
did
think I had ever. I don't think I had heard it.
Yeah, it's
God.
it's kind of I mean, none of this is like Sondheim level of difficulty, but this one, the arrangement that has been so beautifully put out, done by Scott Wasserman, who I also wanted to mention is our music
Yes.
supervisor.
Yeah.
It's required a little bit more practice from not only the two of us, but also a guitar player. So when we've done it in sort of a short turnaround, I usually don't play this one because it takes just a little more work to finesse. But we've had enough time here with Dan and with the two of us to really get it
Right.
to a place I would felt comfortable sharing it.
Right. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would never compare anyone to Mr. Sondheim, but I will have set in the auditions where where so many actors performed work from the show, and hearing their reactions to the music, it just underscored that it is a beautiful score, and people really love performing it. So that process just got me even more excited about the opportunity.
Me
to
too.
continue to
Me
perform the
too.
show.
That was truly unlike anything I've ever had the privilege of experiencing before, having other people sing stuff that I thought up. So
yeah, it's so wonderful in my position to sit there with people coming in time after time after time to audition with your material, and seeing the young composer experience their work like that. It's really thrilling from our perspective behind the table with you. It's really cool. Yeah. All right. So we told you we wouldn't keep you here all night, so we're going to wrap up here. But we've been doing this for close to a month now, talking to writers about new work. And then also we just started another series where we're talking to artists who created some of our biggest hits at the Opera House. And I'm finding a lot of comfort because I spend most of my day dealing with plans and logistics and budgets and what if and how are we going to sanitize and how, what's the future look like. And so in these moments, I find a great deal of comfort in getting to be in the room with you and stay with the art. So thank you, first of all, for doing that. But I'm finding a lot of comfort in the artist's perspective on this moment. So I guess my question for you right now is, what do you see ahead, from an artist's perspective in this horrible, just bad news time that we're in? What do you see ahead as an artist?
I see what I have seen thus far that gives me hope is that during times of trouble and times of hardship, the thing that everybody continues to look for answers and for encouragement is the arts and music. And so it certainly heartens me to, who knows anything, but to seem to know that in a future where perhaps a lot of things do not look familiar, the things that will be familiar are music and are theater and dance and all of the things that seem to be innate in our livelihood to want to create and want to use to bring people together. And I hope that once things are safe, there may be newfound space to connect through the arts in ways that we hadn't really thought of before or haven't done in a long time. One of the, I always kind of wish that I had lived in the, early 20th century when people were going to hoedowns, all the time, or Saturday nights, that was a gathering place. And I don't know, and part of me sort of dreams and hopes that, once the time comes when we're able to maybe hold hands again, perhaps people might want, it'll feel like an act of defiance to grab your neighbor's hand and do a do-si-do or something. So perhaps people will be able to get more people doing that.
We are going to have a hell of a hootenanny when we get back together. I promise you that. And all of the people who tuned in tonight are welcome. We have your information, people. We're going to invite you. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Let me just remind people we're doing this every Thursday night with a different writer. And next week, we're going to shift to 7 o'clock. We've been hearing a little bit that we're interrupting people's dinner hour and possibly also coming up against the governor's daily briefing, which is really important, particularly now as we head into what we hope will be a period of slowly beginning to reopen our state. So please know, every Thursday night, 7 o'clock here, you'll get to meet another great writer and hear some great work. And on Tuesday nights, we're doing the Great Speed series. You can find out all the information you need at goodspeed.org. To those of you who have asked how you can help Goodspeed, the best thing you can do for us right now is to donate your ticket refund, turn it into a tax-deductible contribution to Goodspeed. The CARES Act changed the rules around deductibility for charitable contributions for 2020. So if you have the ability to do that, we would be incredibly grateful. You can visit www.goodspeed.org or email us at info@goodspeed.org, and we'll take good care of you in that respect. And also, if you want the people who asked, several people asked about the future of Johnny at Goodspeed. If you want to be sure that you don't miss that information, go to info@goodspeed.org and make sure we have your email address, and we'll put you on the list and make sure you get brought up to date. So guys, thank you so much for being with us. I'm so glad to know that you're healthy and smiling and working, and it's wonderful to see you, and we will get back at it again soon, okay?
Yes.
Okay,
All right.
bye.
Bye.
Thanks everybody for joining us.